getting at the subject of interagency spectrum process. Despite Congress delegating authority over federal spectrum management to NTIA, there have been cases where other federal agencies have questioned NTIA's decisions and authority. And along those same lines, NTIA is supposed to speak for the entire executive branch on federal spectrum issues, yet there have been multiple examples of federal agencies communicating directly with the FCC rather than collectively through NTIA. And I'll just open this up to anybody who wants to comment. Do you all believe that the interagency spectrum process is designed by Congress is working effectively as was intended?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the structure is right. We've had some stumbles the last couple of years, as you reference. I think what's needed is just greater collaboration between NTIA and FCC at all levels. And certainly, we've seen some turnover at the top of NTIA, which probably hasn't helped. There are a lot of good people at NTIA, and they're doing a good job. But I think in terms of consistent representation of the agencies and consistent collaboration with the FCC, you need some stability there would be of assistance. But more importantly, I think it's just a commitment to getting the smart folks in the room, getting all the engineers in the room to tackle these issues, and to have a shared vision of what we're really trying to achieve as between NTIA and the FCC. OMB usually has a view on this stuff, help from OSTP or NEC in the White House, and just a continued sustained and collaborative effort to get to our common goals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Thune, for the question. It's an interesting question. You basically quoted from a memo from the Chairman Pallone of the Energy and Commerce Committee on the House side to the GAO to conduct an investigation of some of these concerns and issues. And at the end, the committee asked NTI to look in, or asked GAO to look into several things. So I don't think we feel that the process is broken. It may be suffering from growing pains. The process, as Dr. Layton said, is between 94 and 86 years old, depending upon when you think it started. If you take the Communications Act of 1934, it's 86 years old. And a lot's happened since then. Quite a bit's happened since then. And so what we're in, the phase we're in now, the age we're in now, is an age where there's a lot more shared use. And so we wonder whether the process might lend itself to revisiting that in the context of more shared spectrum use.
Dr. Lates.
Well, again, thank you for the question, and of course this hearing, Senator Thune, and your leadership to look at this issue. What was created with the 1927 Radio Act, that is what we have today, and it's acting as what was intended at the time, which was to make spectrum as a political decision. So I think we get what was put in place then. And if you also read the minutes of IREC over the years, there have always been disputes. We forget about them now, but they have always been going on amongst the agencies, between the FCC, with the other federal departments. It's nothing new. What I would encourage, and I encourage this committee, I think there could be more congressional oversight of this particular function. This committee does a lot of work to oversee the FCC. I think it could do more work to oversee NTIA and IREC, and I encourage you to look at that.
Okay. Mr. Calabrese, anything to add before we move on? Okay, I'll direct this question to Dr. Layton. In your testimony, you state that, and I quote, 5G is the quickest way to equalize the digital divide between urban and rural America, end quote. How can we improve the federal spectrum allocation process to provide more equitable benefits to Americans, and should the process be more transparent?
So what I think you can see if you look at the FCC's spectrum, the ULS, the Universal Licensing System, is that what a market-based system does is it allows more participation in the spectrum. This number of licenses, the number of users, the number of uses, it's tremendous. With regard to 5G, because the overall decision around which bands are to be used is still an administrative decision, the industries who are going to be disrupted by 5G, they want to hijack the political process to slow the rollout of 5G. I find it very unfortunate. People suffer today because 5G has been delayed by at least 2 years. We can look at what's going on with C-band, for example. Nevertheless, I think Chairman Pai, the FCC, Commissioner O'Reilly, Commissioner Carr, they have been very forthright to continue to push for 5G. Of course, and with the help of this committee, it's extremely important. All of America wants to have the next generation networks. They all need it today. School children, health, telemedicine, we know that through the pandemic. For a longer term, I hope that we would look at bringing pricing to this picture. That is something that's missing. I know it's not something in this particular term, but a medium to long-term plan should include pricing for federal spectrum. That would reduce the squabbling significantly.